Hello and welcome back to It's Always Sunny in Wichita. No, this movie doesn't take place in Wichita. It doesn't even take place in Kansas. It's not even set in the United States. But witches. It is about witches, so I'm sticking with it. My name is Patrick.
Yeah, hello. My name is Hansel, and this little blonde boy next to me is called Edward Lugia. Okay, yeah. I'm Red, and you introduce yourself, third guy,
And yeah, I'm Lugia, and witches be bitches.
which is be crazy. So we talked about Hansel and Gretel, witch hunters, witch killers. But before that, we're gonna talk about two people that died. Quincy Jones passed away. How familiar are you two with Quincy Jones? Who he is, his legacy?
I
Not
am
very.
aware of him by name. I'd have to look into what he did.
Okay, so Quincy Jones is probably considered one of the most significant and important music producers of all time. He has won 28 Grammy Awards, a Primetime Emmy Award, a Tony Award, 7 Academy Awards, and 4 Golden Globes. He's had a 7 decade career, so he's been at it since he was 20, and he died at 91, and he was still working. He's probably best known as the guy who discovered Michael Jackson. And he's also the guy that produced Off the Wall, Thriller, and Bad. And if you guys aren't familiar, record producers like they also write the music. So he also wrote many film scores. Some of the ones you might know is In the Heat of the Night, The Italian Job, The Wiz, The Color Purple, and I know for a fact you guys know this one. He wrote the Austin Powers theme.
Ah,
So
okay.
a lot of famous kids too. You guys probably know Rashida Jones. You know, she stars in a lot of like sitcoms. She was Karen in The Office and in Parks and Rec. Her parents were Quincy Jones and Peggy Lipton, so that's kind of funny. Rest in peace, Quincy Jones. Probably one of the most, generally probably like the most important voice in American music. Like if you had to pick one, it's probably him. Like he made Motown. Like I'm bearing the lead. He's the guy behind Motown. And if you don't know what Motown is, come on, man. Another significant, I guess, black entertainer that passed away. Actually, no, wait. Motown was Berry Gordy. Berry Gordy was Motown. My mistake. Berry Gordy and Quincy Jones, like both of them together, are probably like the most significant musicians. So I got confused because Berry Gordy was who the Jackson Five were responsible for, but Quincy Jones is the guy that like made Michael's solo career. Both of them significant men. Barry Gordy's still alive, I think. He's like 94, so they're both, you know. Anyway, what was I talking about again? Oh, yes. Tony Todd also passed away. This one you guys are probably a bit more familiar with because he's an actor. He is the star of the Candyman horror series. So you guys probably saw that. He's also in the Night of the Living Dead remake. He's in a lot of horror movies. He's in The Crow. He's in Star Trek TNG and Deep Space Nine. He's in the Flash TV show. He plays the Fallen and Revenge of the Fallen. A lot of like voice acting roles. He played Venom in the new Spider-Man video game. He's in Final Destination. A lot of like horror things. He's got like a very iconic like gravelly voice. That's why he's done like a lot of like voice acting work. So rest in peace him. He was in Half-Life 2. He's in the upcoming Indiana Jones game, so that's like a posthumous release. But yeah. Rest in peace, Tony Todd. Also, I feel like one of you, like Luga, you've seen Candyman, right? That horror movie.
Actually, no, I haven't.
Well, you will eventually. Um, that's presumptuous, but like I have, you're probably gonna watch Candyman one day,
Is
right?
is that a threat?
No, like I'm just,
But most
you probably
likely.
are. Like statistically, like there's a decent chance. I feel like you're gonna watch like at least one of like every horror franchise before you die. So unless something horrible happens, you die like early, which
Let's
that's
not
also not a
jinx it.
threat. It's also not a threat. I'm not doing a good job. Anyway, why don't we talk about instead of you dying, let's talk about witches dying. Flawless
Really not good with
transition.
transitions, are you're not good with transitions, are you?
Flawless transition.
Uh-huh. I'll take the reins from here, seeing as I did choose this movie. So, Hansel and Gretel, Witch Hunters. This was written and directed by Norwegian filmmaker Tommy Wirkola, who also directed Dead Snow 1 and 2, What Happened to Monday, Violent Night, And he has an upcoming animated film coming out next year called Spermageddon.
Not to be
Would you like
confused
me
with
to
another
further
Tommy W, but I digress.
Let's give a little background on this. So, where does the idea of Hansel and Gretel becoming witch hunters come from? Well, when Tommy Wirkola was studying film and television in school, he entered a practice pitch session where he had 1 minute to present a film idea to his professor. And he decided on an idea he first thought of when he was a kid about Hansel and Gretel growing up to become witch hunters because, they've seen some shit, they've been through some shit. That just seems logical. And at one point during his pitch, the professor stopped him and said, "Okay, Tommy, don't ever speak of this idea again until you're face to face with a producer, because I guarantee it will sell." Fast forward a few years later, in 2009, his first film, Dead Snow, made its premiere at the Sundance Film Festival. And, that's a lot of directors and producers and agents there. He was approached by a group of producers, and among them was actor Will Ferrell and director Adam McKay. And realizing who he was in the presence of, Wirkola thought back to his professor and decided to pitch them his idea. 2 days later, the movie was greenlit. The film was originally set to be released in March 2012, but it was pushed back to January 2013 to both allow time to film a post-credit scene with Renner, as well as to allow the Avengers and the Bourne Legacy to release first, in hopes that that would, give a boost to the appeal of Jeremy Renner. I mean, it worked. The film was made on a budget of 50 million, and it ended up grossing 226.3 million. So quite impressive, despite not receiving very good reviews from critics. But due to the film's success, both a sequel and TV show were announced, but neither information has come out about either of them since. So I think it's fair to say it's not going to happen. Well, in this
Nah,
day and age, you never know. This day and age, you never
there's a
know.
huge following for the Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunter. Who
I mean,
doesn't want more Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunter?
there are defenders actually.
Really?
At the end of 2000, yeah, at the end of 2013, some people came forward to say, "Hey, you know what? It was kind of underrated." Well, we'll be the judge of that. Before that, though, guys, remember how 2022 was the year of Pinocchio for some reason?
Yeah. We got like what,
Well,
3 adaptations?
2013 was the year of Hansel and Gretel because there was this movie. There was also an Asylum knockoff of this movie, simply called Hansel and Gretel. Yeah, this movie has a knockoff. And there was also a movie called Hansel and Gretel Get Baked about marijuana.
Huh.
And all three of those movies released within 2 months.
Were they in on it? Did they collaborate with each
I,
other?
I doubt it, but if you're a Hansel and Gretel fan, you were eating good in early
'Cause
2013.
that's a very fucking odd coincidence that just happened to be a thing for like 2 months.
This movie was released in a weird trend in Hollywood where it's like, let's take fantasy stories and make them badass. Not even fantasy stories. Let's take stories people know and just make them badass with fantasy elements. Like there was Abraham Lincoln Vampire Slayer, Snow White and the Huntsman. Even TV shows like Once Upon a Time in Grimm were airing. It was very strange. But enough beating around the bush. What is Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters about? Well, it's about Hansel and Gretel. And they become witch hunters after escaping the clutches of the witch who wants to eat them.
It's a pretty
And there's a group of
self-explanatory title, honestly.
Yeah, no, for real. But I guess to get more specific, a bunch of witches are kidnapping a bunch of children. Specifically, they need one child born in each month of the year so that they can. I'll
Witches
honest,
be crazy.
I
don't
think
even
they
That's
just
remember
the
what
plot
the
of the
main
movie.
motivation
I think they
was.
just want to be immune to fire so that they basically can't die.
That's
That's
the
what I
plot of the
thought they
movie.
wanted,
Witches be
but
crazy.
fire isn't the only danger in this world. There's guns, there's bow and arrows, there's ogres who can squash you. The point is, a lot of action happens in this movie. So, what did we think?
It
Witches be
was
crazy.
it was eh. I mean, it's not the worst thing I've ever seen, and coming out of Hong Kong '97, it actually felt nice to, feel something, but it still isn't like great or anything.
I didn't really feel anything, I'll be honest. Like, here's the thing. I feel like I dislike boring movies more than I dislike bad ones. And I feel like this movie isn't bad, but it's boring, and I'm not sure if that's like better or worse. Probably better for most people, worse for me, but it's not my thing.
It depends on
Like,
how painful it is, because like that's
yeah, I
debatably
guess.
worse.
Thing is, like, a painful movie, like, they're often painful because they like took like a real bold swing and like paid off. And I feel like, and I talked about this when we watched the movie, but I feel like this movie, like, there are a lot of movies like this that I can see having a cult following and like 10 or so years once like the nostalgia, like we're only 10 years away from this, so people are like very much are looking back on like the early 2010s with disdain, but like another 10 years when people stop hitting the early 2010s, people are probably going to like look back on this, on like some of these movies with some positivity. I don't think this is going to be one of them though, because like I think the comparison I made is like a lot of those movies, they were like super grim, super dark, and I feel like that like paired with like The Thing making like a super gritty action movie with this, that's like an interesting kind of contrast, and I feel like that's might stick out with some people because that's a weird choice. But like this movie and a couple others, like the Huntsman movies, they try to make them like quippy action movies. Like they're still like dark though. Like so, like rather than going like full irreverence, like say a Shrek or that Dungeons and Dragon movies that came out a few years ago, or rather going like super dark and gritty. This was like a weird middle ground, and like the best I can describe it, it feels like Thor 2. And if I know you guys don't watch Marvel movies, but Thor 2 is considered like one of the worst ones. No one looks back on Thor 2, and I feel like, it's not many people are going to look back on this, but they might look back on, say, Maleficent or the Tim Burton ones or like Abraham Lincoln Vampire Slayer, just because like at least that one's like a little more novel.
Jack the Giant Slayer. There was a Red Riding Hood movie with Amanda Seyfried that was about werewolves.
People are probably gonna remember like Into the Woods just because like that one's probably gonna get remembered because the movie went for a complete grim dark tone, but the original play is like an irreverent Shrek type comedy. So I feel like people like that's just gonna be remembered, one because it's attached to something that's already popular, but also like there's a point of comparison. Like people are like, what the fuck? Like there's such a weird choice to turn a comedy into something so dark. Like usually it's the opposite, like parodies or like Doctor Strangelove, like but like that one's like that's kind of weird. So like I don't know. There's also usually like some sort of baseline like I think I mentioned this also like if you look back in like the 2000s, like there's a lot of like when digital film first came out, there was like a lot of like people that like sort of like went kind of crazy like the Spy Kids movies or like Speed Racer or like the Charlie's Angels movies. All of those are like done by like directors that actually have like a voice, maybe not necessarily a good voice. Like I don't think many people give a fuck about Mick G, who directed the Charlie's Angels movies, but like he made like music videos, you can kind of tell. And like here, I couldn't get like, and a lot of these movies, not just like this one, but a lot of these movies, I just don't get like much of a strong sort of directorial style. Like Cat in the Hat. I know Lugia hates Cat in the Hat, but me and Patty we kind of appreciate it, and that's just because like Bo Welsh has got a weird fucking style. Like and like you can tell like the sets are like really out there and whatnot. It's like
The thing is, here, it doesn't really feel like there was much of a passion for it. I feel like
yeah.
they could have, like, leaned in a little more on the cheese. Because, like, as you said, it was quippy from time to time, but it still mostly played it straight, and I think that's what kind of killed it for me.
Yeah, and I don't
It's
like. I
fucking
think you can play
Hansel.
it straight, but like it's a tone thing. Like it's like I think you can like take the story straight, and like, but like it's such like the tone is weird because it has like so many bits in it that feel like they would be in like a Shrek movie, but it's like it's so gritty and it's just like I guess you can call it like a weird choice, but like it's not like a particularly like endearing weird choice. It's just like it doesn't like feel that creative. It should feel creative like that what that like crossbow that splits into two like that would probably feel creative in like a different movie, but here it just feels like bland. Like the witch designs are kind of like there's a lot of like nuggets in there, but like it's surrounded by like just what's pretty bland overall to me. Like that, so it feels like
Like, sometimes
oh
they do lean into it. Like, they
yeah,
have, like, a
well,
makeshift record player and a defibrillator, even though, like, those wouldn't have been a thing in the time period this is supposed to represent. So, like,
but
there's
it's so
still
like it's
something there. It's just the
it's
whole
kind of like
thing
these
is
nuggets, but it's
not.
like so far and few between that's like it more just comes off as like oddities rather than like
Yeah.
something that actually makes the movie unique. Again, I'm gonna say like the movie that this movie should have been is that Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves movie. That feels like the tone or like the style they should have gone for. That or like Shrek 4, because Shrek 4 is probably like the most dark, like serious Shrek, but like there's like a very consistency with the tone. Where in here it just feels like dark, but every once in a while I have like a Marvel quip. Where like when Shrek 4, when it's trying to be funny, it still like fits the vibe. Shrek 4 also involves like witches and stuff, like so, I don't know. There's things to compare between the two.
I do agree the tone needed to be more definitive. Like if it wanted to be more goofy or if it wanted to be more serious. Overall, I don't dislike this movie as much as you guys. I'm just more like,
Well, I don't dislike it.
looking
It's
No,
just
I don't
fine.
like
I don't dislike it either. It's just
it's like
not
a
really
movie is like
something exceptional.
here's the thing, like when I judge movies, I kind of just judge it by like whether it's gonna stick with me. And I'm gonna be honest, after I go to sleep, I'm not gonna remember this movie ever. Like I'm never gonna think about this movie ever again. A movie sticking with me is like something I kind of value. Like here, I don't think it will. So it seems like I'm being negative, but it's like it's not like I'm like it's not unpleasant. If someone like put this on, like you're not gonna have like an awful time, probably, but like I don't think anyone will ever remember this movie after they watch it.
Well, if I could be slightly positive, I will say I enjoyed the first like 30 minutes of this movie. Like I thought it had a decent setup, like some decent action. I liked some of the ideas they thrown out. Like the idea that like witches don't just need brooms, like any form of like wood. Like this witch at one point just grabs like a giant branch off a tree and just flies away. Like I'm like, oh, okay, never really seen that before.
Like it has
But
nuggets
like
of cool stuff, but it like I just don't think it goes far enough.
here's how I can simplify it. This movie released around the same time shows like Once Upon a Time and Grimm were airing. I feel like it would have fit better in like that short time frame. I don't know. This felt like it kind of just kept going and they didn't really know what to do with it. I feel like Hansel and Gretel being witch hunters could fit in like an episode of Grimm or something. You can get the point across much clearer and like more fun.
That's what I feel. I feel like all the good parts of this movie is like one day someone else is gonna make like a sort of like comedic action movie with fairy tale characters. And I feel like there are jokes in here or like interesting ideas like that like branch thing with the witches that like another story is gonna tell. Because I feel like this has good ideas. It's just like that's all it's just like a couple neat moments and what's overall just kind of boring. But I don't think like, that takes away from the few cool ideas. I just, hope that some other guy sees this movie one day and they're like, that's a good idea. And like they put it in whatever they're working on that's better. What I'm saying is I think the guys who are writing Shrek 5 right now, if somehow this podcast comes across the writers of Shrek 5, steal ideas from this movie. Did you guys know they're making a Shrek 5? By the way,
Yeah,
that wasn't
Yeah,
like I wasn't like joking.
we we we,
we
we
talked about it
talked
one
about it
time.
once.
So man, I don't remember what we talk about. But, like half the times, like I'll be like, "Did we ever talk about this movie?" Like anytime, like I'm planning stuff out, I'm like, "Did
And
we talk
it's
about
like
this?"
I tell you, if you have to ask, the answer's likely yes.
But sometimes, like the answer, like is like, no, we have, or no, the answer is like sometimes the answer is yes, we have talked about it. I just forgot. Anyway, some positives. I really like the makeup. I think all the practical effects in this movie are pretty good. I don't think the CGI is, especially as it goes along, but it has a lot of good practical effects. Shout out to that.
I'd agree.
Uh, sure. I don't know.
The
Like nothing
troll guy
really.
was like the troll guy was pretty good.
That was
The
an
Shrek,
animatronic. That was like a legit animatronic.
yeah, exactly. That's like I'm saying that's a practical effect. An animatronic is a practical effect.
I guess that's
I'm saying
fair.
the
But
I'm
like
saying the practical effects are good.
I know. I'm just highlighting the fact that the troll was a practical effect.
Yeah.
Specifically, what that practical
I mean,
effect
like,
was.
okay, the witch makeup wasn't like that good. Like, it wasn't like
the
terrible. Like,
environments too did not look good at all. The lighting did not do it justice. They went flat for most of it. And when they tried
yeah.
to be something more, like with the blood moon scene, like some of the characters weren't even shaded in red, like when they were like dead center, like
Well, that
in
was
the
CGI.
camera.
Like that's like that was a CGI
Like still,
issue.
that
That
didn't
was like,
look good though.
well, yeah, but I'm saying the practical effects are good. It's an ugly movie, but like there are parts of it that look not ugly. That was my point. I feel like we're getting like more negative as we keep talking about it. Like we started like it's not that bad. Now we're like,
I don't know. I don't understand how people can defend this shit.
this movie is well, it's not disappointing. I was gonna say it's more disappointing since my son, but it's not disappointing because I went in with zero expectations. So if anything, I'm positively surprised. Positively.
I will say, regardless of what we think of this movie, like reading about its production history, it is cool that Tommy Wirkola like took his professor's advice. And I even saw an interview with him where he's like, it's so surreal seeing like billboards and posters like in cities for this movie that I wouldn't really have made had my professor not told me to save it. So like if anything else,
Yeah,
like it is cool he was very thankful to his professor.
And
yeah.
it did actually generate some money, so it's not like it was a flop.
Random question, since we all were like film and television students, you guys ever do a practice pitch?
I don't ever really remember having to do one.
Not really. Kinda. I think like during the I only took like a few film
I
classes because like
remember I had to make
I'm not a
a
film major.
I had to make a like 22-page script for like a sitcom. But
Yeah,
I
like
guess that's
I've
like
had
the
like
closest
writing
thing.
stuff.
Yeah.
I was in a playwriting class, so I had to write a few plays, and we kind of like would pitch ideas for that. And like same short film, I guess, my short film class, but that was more so like that
So
wasn't like
no,
a
you've
real
never
pitch
had.
process.
So the answer is no. You've never had to pitch anything.
Not really. Did you?
No.
That means all of our good ideas aren't taken up, I guess. All right. Any last thoughts?
Not really. I think we've said literally everything we can.
Like I
Yes.
said,
This is
it's
probably
like
the
I said.
most in-depth, objectively probably the most in-depth discussion on this film online.
All under a half hour too.
Again, I liked the first third. I think there are some good ideas here, but overall, it's just
It had
okay.
potential, but a lot of like the potential kind of like it ran out of steam as it went along.
It's
And I
Again,
think
inoffensive.
I think it has good
it probably
ideas, and I hope that those ideas can find itself into a better movie one day.
again, I feel it probably would have been better as like an episode of Grimm or Once Upon a Time.
Not like
Yeah.
just a feature-length movie.
I don't know. Didn't like Puss in Boots 2 have like the Three Bears as like an action? Maybe like Puss in Boots 3 can have like Hansel and Gretel as bounty hunters as like a side character in the adventure.
Yeah, I'd
You know,
buy that.
they're competing with Puss to like get the bounty or some shit. I don't know. Again, Shrek 5 writers, watch this movie. No more thoughts? All right. It
Yeah,
is
I think we said
my
everything.
turn to recommend, right?
Yes, it is.
All right. So, over Halloween, the last like month, I know like I'm not doing okay, I guess I am doing a Halloween recommendation, but like I was thinking about a couple like iconic Halloween movies like Beetlejuice, Ghostbusters, and I'm not gonna recommend one of those two, but I'm gonna recommend movies directly related to Ghostbusters and Tim Burton. And I guess my question is, guys, is what would you guys rather have? Something directly tied to Tim Burton or something directly tied to Ghostbusters. Note, both of these movies are not considered good.
I'm leaning towards the one related to Tim Burton.
I'm gonna
What
lean
about
Tim
you?
Burton too.
All right. I guess next week we're going to be watching Monkey Bone, starring Brendan Fraser.
Okay.
You sound very disappointed, Patty.
No, I've never seen Monkey Bone. I'm just
Okay.
I don't have anything to say.
I know I've heard of
All
this
right.
movie before. I've never seen it though. Giancarlo Esposito is in this?
Yeah, here's the Monkey. This isn't like a kind of low budget, like flew under the radar affair, like our kind of last two movies. Like people know Monkey Bone. Monkey Bone is like a movie that people remember. Yeah, like this isn't like Hong Kong 97 or Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters where like you won't find people who remember this. Like this was like a decently big release.
Holy shit, and
Um,
Bob Odenkirk. What is this
yeah,
movie?
this was directed by Henry Selick. It was basically his like big follow-up to his stop motion hits The Nightmare Before Christmas and James and the Giant Peach. It bombed horribly, so they never let him direct a live action movie again.
Okay.
The best way to describe this movie is that it's the Roger Rabbit for like horror stop motion. It's kind of like Cool World, where it's like this kind of like twisted take on a Roger Rabbit type thing. So yeah,
So you've seen it
next week.
before.
No.
Is this another one that we should watch together or by ourselves?
Honestly, I'm not sure. I think it would be good to see it together probably, but you know what? Here's the thing. This movie has enough defenders where I'm going to say let's watch it alone because who knows, we might like it. Again, I've never seen it. I don't know, but I think, it'd be fun to give it a gamble.
Okay.
It's based off this graphic novel called Darktown, so I might flip through that. Stephen King, what the fuck? So I'm just like looking through the cast. Stephen King isn't in this movie. A guy plays Stephen King in this movie. By the way, are you guys curious about what the other movie was going to be?
Sure, if you want to share.
Yeah, if you're
It
willing.
was the other movie was going to be Nothing But Trouble, which if you guys don't know, that was sort of like a Dan Aykroyd passion project. Dan Aykroyd, if you guys don't know, he was kind of the guy that like spearheaded Ghostbusters because he's like a paranormal kind of guy. So yeah, Nothing But Trouble was his sort of
Don't know it.
kind of passion project from him. Yeah, this one's a bit less known. This one is also like kind of has like somewhat of a cult following. So yeah, Chevy Chase. This is actually the only movie Dan Aykroyd has directed. Yeah, either way, you're gonna get like a director because this one's directed by Henry Selick, who made Nightmare Before Christmas and Coraline. and James and Giant Peach. And the other one was Dan Aykroyd, who is a big actor. So yeah, a lot of directorial efforts, I guess. So I guess we're keeping the streak of kind of shitty movies rolling, but hopefully this is a change of pace because this is more of like a
Like a cult classic.
yeah, this is like a wider really. I feel like each one, like Hong Kong 97, that's like a B movie no one knows about. Hansel and Gretel, that is like a big budget movie, but it's like definitely like a lower key release. This one was actually meant to be like a big movie and it just bombed. We're like increasing in notoriety.
All right, so yeah,
This
up
this probably
next
isn't this
on
episode probably isn't gonna come out till January, so we should
Well,
probably just
we'll
ditch
see.
doing the dates.
so up next is Monkey Bone from 2001. This has been It's Always Sunny in Hollywood, and whatever you do, don't eat the candy.